Hello and welcome to Black Eye the podcast where I share my perspective on life through my eyes. Well, hello, welcome to episode 2. I'm a bit nervous today because I did the first episode and I kind of just splurged it all out and then it was done. And then I released it and it's actually been really nice hearing everyone's feedback. It's been really positive. Everyone has said they've enjoyed listening and that they thought it was a good first episode, which has been nice to hear. And now I've just got to keep up the momentum and keep people listening. So it's a challenge. And I hope today's episode is as engaging as the last one. And I hope the episodes to come after are even more engaging than this. So this week's episode is called When It Rains, It Pours. And when I run through the episode and explain to you the week I've had and what's happened, you'll understand the reason for the title. But I wanted to talk about those weeks where you feel like everything is going wrong and everything does actually go wrong. And how I kind of deal with it. And I guess how I've learned to deal with it. And what tips and tools I think are useful for actually kind of keeping a level head and just getting through the week and not letting the week eat you up, but coming out on top of the week. So welcome to episode 2. Let's get into it. So I was having a week and I wanted to start with a definition that kind of explains the week for you. I wanted to explain the phrase. I was interested in knowing where it came from. So Google tells me that the phrase "when it rains, it pours," the definition or the proverb it comes from is a thing that says misfortunes or difficult situations tend to follow straight after each other in rapid succession or arrive all at the same time. And then the origin, it says, comes from a common weather phenomenon in which after there's been no rain for a long time, a lot of rain suddenly falls at once and the weather remains rainy for a while. And that's definitely the week I've had, maybe even the 2 weeks I've had. And I was kind of looking back on the week and I actually had another topic. And then after my day yesterday, I decided I had to kind of actually stop and just do this topic because it's one of those things I think that I often... Sometimes I'm like, am I going crazy? Like, is this a lot of bad things happening at once? And actually, when I sit down and think about it, like, I'm not being like over the top. It is just things are being really intense. And I wanted to just talk about the week I had, just to explain to you guys. I guess sometimes how things happen and it can seem like things are piling up. Then also from the other perspective, the ways I kind of try to make the most of the week and not let it get me down. And so I'll start from the beginning, I guess, of the last 2 weeks, and then I'll go from there. So last week, Friday, my laptop just kind of, the port stopped working and I was like, okay, fine. Again, this is the third time my laptop's broken, like a year and a half, and it's a new laptop. So there's been a succession of annoying things. The last time was the whole like hardboard wasn't working and I had to go to... Doji's just broken into the room. Doji's my cat, sorry. I had to go to the hardware store and ask Apple to replace my whole laptop, and then I had to make an insurance claim and the insurance company didn't want to pay for the insurance claim. It became this whole thing that was very annoying. So that was the last time. And then this time the ports weren't working, so I said, you know what, I've got insurance, it's fine. But when I think about what had actually happened and caused the laptop to not work in the first place, it was my cat, Doji, who just broke into the room, had knocked a pint of water into my laptop. I'd gone out for the day and I'd left my laptop on my bedside table, and then I had like some water on the window ledge, and Doji likes climbing on the window ledge, so he jumped up on the window ledge, then on his way down I think knocked the water and then into my laptop, also into my hard drive. So I was having a stressful time because I was like, I guess the hard drive itself is also probably broken. Tested it on another laptop and it was fine. So my laptop itself is now broken. And then I said, okay, fine, I've got to take it to I'm just laughing when I think about the rest of the week. I'll take it to Apple, take it to an Apple authorized repair store and have them fix it. Took it down and he was like, hopefully it's not the port, it's just the ports. If it's the whole hard board, it's going to be like £450 to replace. So I take it in, and then leave it there. And then later that evening, I'm going to the shop and I'm having friends over, and I said I wasn't going to cook dinner because I didn't want to cook dinner. I just wanted to kind of like, not stress myself out. I had a busy week. And then I think a few hours before they came, I said I felt bad being a host and asking people to bring their own food or drink. So I was going to the shop in like shorts and a t-shirt and not really like paying attention and have any pockets. And I'm thinking I should probably like be careful with my phone because I didn't have a case on my phone. And as I'm walking to the store, my phone slips out of my hand and smashes, and the screen smashes. And so I'm like, okay, my laptop's broken. My screen is now smashed. Like this seems to be the beginning of a series of things going wrong. And I say that because I've like I'm not a negative person, and I wouldn't say I'm necessarily like a super positive person. I'm kind of just like a neutral person. I kind of just like, I can be guided by my day, and kind of my mood can be guided by like what happens around me. And so I maintain a generally good base on average. But sometimes when things start happening, because I'm not really like one or the other, I kind of like start to think, oh, it seems like this is more of a bad day than a good day, or vice versa. So I was like, okay, like I'm aware of the week I'm having and what's going on, and so that doesn't seem to be too great in itself. And I say that because like I sometimes imagine myself as someone that can be carried away by just getting through the day and not actually paying attention to it. So I've been trying to as of the last few years, just take more time to kind of reflect on how I'm feeling, how I think the day's going, how the week's going, so on and so forth. And so when that happened, I had a little alarm bell like, oh, you're going through a bad patch. And I say that because even like a few years before, I had like, I think the year before COVID happened, the January of the year before COVID happened, was I had a run of 4 weeks where I had like the worst 4 weeks, like of my one of the worst 4 weeks of my life. I'd lost my wallet in New Year's, and I never went to New Year's house party, so that was kind of like my confirmation not to go, because I'd lost my wallet with everything in it, and things were kind of closed because it was a new year and it was hard to get stuff done over. And then I lost my work pass, and then I fell out with 3 of my closest friends in like 4 weeks. That was really intense. And then I was really, really like mentally like not in the best place. I think I was just kind of stressed, and I was really upset, and was feeling actually like very down. And I remember just thinking, and things just kept happening, like things just kept going wrong. And I remember thinking like, it's funny how like you have such good periods and then one thing goes wrong, and it seems to kind of like, I don't know what it is, like tip the scales the other way. And so since that's happened to me 2 years ago, whenever I kind of have a series of unfortunate events, as Lemony Snicket would say, I start to think about, okay, is this going to be like a run of bad things? And I'll finish the story and then kind of go back onto like my perspective on these kind of things. But so my phone breaks, screen cracks. I'm like, okay, fine. And that's on the Friday. I have the weekend, it's okay. And then I'm having my kitchen redone, so it's nearly finished, thankfully. But during the week, things just keep going wrong. So the floor that I wanted to have done is not available, it's not in stock. And so even though we've chosen out, they can't do the floor this week. They have to come back in 2 weeks because they have another job. I ordered my dishwasher to come, and I actually thought it was coming on the Wednesday. I was wrong, it was coming on the Thursday. So I told the guys who were doing the building the complete wrong thing. And they were not too happy about that, but it was fine because they were still around on the Thursday. And then I said to them, okay, well, it's coming today between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And we needed it to arrive as early as possible so they could put it in, because they were kind of waiting for it to arrive. I get the text on the morning of the Thursday, and the text says, your dishwasher will arrive between 2:05 and 6:05. So basically the last hour slot is the latest it could come. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, that's kind of it's just my luck, essentially. And then we're waiting. And all of this time I'm also working from home that day. So I'm trying to work and also deal with stuff with the builder. The night before, I forgot to say this, sorry, the night before Thursday, so the night before we're waiting for the dishwasher to arrive, the builder tells me we need an electrician, because he had failed to realise that we didn't have enough sockets for the appliances that are being installed, and so one would have to go behind the oven. So I have to find an electrician on TaskRabbit, and they have high fees if you want them like as soon as possible. So the guy I find is like £40 or £60 call out fee. He says to me, do you have all the materials? And I say, no, I have no materials. I'm not a builder. How would I have like light switches and cables to like cable a plug socket behind a wall? I don't have anything. So please come with everything you need. So yeah, fine. I'm going to come early tomorrow morning so I can be out the way before the builders come. He's supposed to arrive at 8:30. At 10 o'clock, he's still not here. Claims there's traffic, even though whatever. He's coming from not too far away. He arrives and then takes 3 and a bit hours to finish. So the call out charge for the TaskRabbit is £210, which is a £210 I did not have to spend that week. It was not part of my plan. And so I'm like, okay, fine. So that's another expense that's gone wrong. And then the builders they can't really work because he's around, so it delays everything. But then they're waiting for the dishwasher to arrive. Meanwhile, they keep figuring out that they're missing things, that something's broken, they need a replacement. So I'm cycling to Screwfix in between meetings at work and getting this extra stuff they need. Luckily, it was only it's a 4-minute cycle away or 5-minute cycle away, but it just was like the most stressful day because I had a really big presentation that I was doing at 1, and so in between 1 and when I woke up at 8, I'd gone to Screwfix twice already, and then I had to go to B&Q after my meeting at like 5 or something. And anyway, Soslo, of course, the dishwasher arrives at 6:05. Like 6:05, or like 6 o'clock-ish, my phone rings. The guy's like, "Oh, I'm 5 minutes away." So the last moment it could come, it comes. And so the builder's like, "Well, we can't finish today, so we're gonna have to come tomorrow." And they were really against coming the next day because they had another job to do. So that kind of, they're pissed off with me. I feel bad. I'm pissed off at them. Whatever. So that happens. I'm like, okay, this hasn't really been the best week. Friday, I have to go into the office because, I hadn't been in all week because I was in the house. I go in. Friday's actually relatively okay. And Friday evening, I kind of just have a good evening. It's relatively chill and I can't complain. Friday I finished. No, that's a lie. Friday I finished working at 9 p.m. So that was actually not great. It was another bad part of the week. Anyway, I digress. So this is the bulk of the bad part of the week for me, that I kind of, when I was like, I'm having a bad run, I need to just accept it and just get on with it. So Saturday, I'm helping a friend move from his old flat where he's living, to his new flat. And for some reason, I take both sets of house keys with me, and this is important, so you'll note this later. I take both sets of house keys with me and go to meet them. We get a zip car and drive in between his old flat and his new flat. Luckily, it fits in one trip, and then we're kind of done. And then when I'm driving back to my house, I hear a set of keys fall out of my pocket. And I think, okay, fine. I've dropped my keys in the zip car. It's all good. I'll just get them when I park. So I drive, get to my house where I'm dropping off the zip car. And I get out, put the keys back in the zip car, and then in the zip car, dock, in the little glove compartment, get out, end my trip, lock my car, and then I realize straight away, oh my God, I've left my house keys in there. So I call zip car and I say, I'm really sorry, I've left my house keys in there. They unlock the car. I get my keys out, down the side. Fine. I go back inside, start making myself something to eat because I'm super hungry. I've not eaten all day. And then I say to myself, where's my second set of keys? And I look around the house. I can't find them. And I remember that I had both sets of keys with me, and I put them in the bit that's in front of the handbrake in the car where you can put your phone and stuff. So the little holder section. I'm like, it's fine. It's been 10 minutes. I'm just gonna go back downstairs, ask them to unlock the car again, and get my keys. I go downstairs, walk along, whilst I'm on the phone to getting ready to call Zipcar, and the car's gone. The car's gone with my second set of house keys. And I'm struggling to remember what's on the house keys because I just bought this flat recently. So there was one of the set of keys that had something on it that said the flat or something on it, or had the agency on it, and on the back was the house number or something. So I was kind of a bit paranoid about leaving it in the car. So I call Zipcar and I say, well, what can I do about this? And they say, well, unfortunately, it's against our procedure to tell people what is going on with the car and where the car is and who's driving it. So you have to wait until the car's available again and then book it. So I said, okay, well, can you just can you call me or send a notification? And she's like, no, you have to use the app. You have to keep refreshing the app to see if you can see the car in the zip zone that you're in and where it ends up. And then once you see the car, then you can book it, or you can call us and we can lock it. So I say to her, well, that's just insane. Can't you message the guy who's driving, or the lady that's driving the car, and say, by the way, there's something in your car, so when you end your trip, please let us know. She's like, no, it's prohibited. It's against policy. It's against procedure. We can't do that. So then I spend 2 hours refreshing the Zipcar app every hour. And bear in mind, I'm also running late for an event, a dinner party that I was going to at 6, and it's now 4 o'clock. And I have to bring a dish. And I'm in a group of 4, and we're all being assessed as a group as competition. And if you're late, the team gets deducted points for every 10 minutes you're late or something like that. So I'm pressurized to be on time for this event. I'm refreshing the app. I refresh it. I'm like, okay, fine. I see the car. I lock the car. I cycle over. I get there. It's the wrong car. I had one letter wrong in the license plate. One letter incorrect. So I'm just so tense and shaking and annoyed. I come back home and I wait and I think, okay, fine. Well, I just got to continue making my dish in the hope that I get the car and be able to finish in time and get there. So I make this sticky toffee pudding, which is still in the fridge. I haven't eaten it because I'm just too stressed to eat. Then I'm like, okay, fine. I keep refreshing. I can't see it. So I called her and just say, hey, I can't see the car. Can you just tell me where it is? She's like, okay, let me check. Oh, I see it. It's available. The trip's just ended. So I say to her, okay, cool. Lock it. I'll go and get it. She locks it for 3 hours. I say, okay, cool, thanks. Where is it? I start hearing SW20. I'm like, oh my God. It's in Wimbledon, which is, I'm in Oval. And it's a Saturday. It's 6 o'clock. And it's about a 40-minute drive. And at this point, it's 5:30. So I know I'm going to be late. So I drop out of the event. I say, I can't make it, guys. I'll arrive when I arrive. So I go and get another zip car with my cake and the drizzle for my cake in my hands. I get another zip car and I check on maps. It says 46 minutes. I drive, and obviously it takes me about an hour and 10 because of traffic. So I'm driving and there's more traffic and there's standstill traffic. I get there. I call them to open the car. She can't get it to open. I'm stressed. I'm sweating. I feel sick because I'm like, if I've done all this and the keys aren't even in here, I've literally wasted my whole day. And I at this point, my Saturday's already ruined. Like, I had such a bad day. She unlocks the car. I flash my torchlight in the compartment where the keys were. I grab and I hear a jingle. I pull them out. My keys are there. I'm so happy. I'm annoyed that I've wasted money for the extra zip car ride, but it's fine. So then I decide I'm going to drive from here to the next location because I've got a zip car here. It makes sense to just drive to the event. So I lock the car that the keys were in. She locks the car that the keys were in, leaving the car that I'd lost my keys in, parked in Wimbledon somewhere. And then I get back in the car I've driven and I drive to the next location. And I wasn't sure about the location of the event because the address had changed at some point. And I wasn't too sure, but then I checked and I found the right address and it was fine. So put it in and I drove. And then there's some kind of like accident or some kind of standstill around Rotherhithe Tunnel. So I spend 10 minutes in standstill traffic. It takes me an hour and 20 minutes to get there. I get there and then I say to her, can you do me a favor? Can you just lock the car, please? So because it's not letting me lock the car. It won't let me end my trip. And she says, okay, well, you can't end the trip because you're not in the right return bay. And I say, okay, well, is it just any parking club car space? She says, no, it's where you picked it up by your house in Oval. So at this point, I'm close to actually just smashing the cake on the floor and just like banging my head through the window because everything that could have gone wrong today has gone wrong. I've basically got a round trip car instead of a flex car, so you can't leave it anywhere. And she says, well, you can leave it there, but you're going to get charged £35 for a late fee and then a certain amount each hour, and then it goes up until you then fail to return the car within a reasonable time, and then we have to charge you for the recovery of the car. So I say, can you pause it for me? And then she like pause my like trip and let me go and enjoy this thing for like an hour or two and come back. She's like, no, we can't, so you have to pay. So I paid £2 to extend the trip. And then I'm just going to go into, I say, I'm going to go into this like house party, dinner party thing, drop off my cake, and then I'll come back and drive home. Anyway, I get to the entrance and I'm looking around, can't see anyone. I call my friends and I show them where I are and they say, where are you? And I'm like, what? And they're like, where? Like, are you sure you're at the right place? And I say, send me your location. And my friend sends me the location. I'm in the completely wrong place. I went to the old address. In my flurry and rush to get there, when I found my keys, I put in the wrong address. So I went and sat in McDonald's by my house and I ate £15 at McDonald's on my own, stuffed my face, listened to a murder mystery podcast, drove home and went to bed. And I was telling some of my friends this story today and they're like, I'm so sorry, you must be really sad, that's really horrible. And I'm not upset because this kind of stuff happens to me quite often where like everything just goes wrong. I once tried to go to Dubai and I got to the airport, my passport had 3 months and 3.5 weeks left. My passport had 3 months and 3.5 weeks and you need, what am I saying? My passport had, 3 months and 3 weeks left and you need 4 months exactly to get into another country, particularly Dubai. So at the airport, my bag's packed. My friend who I was with, Asher, was just like, well, what do we do? And he went and got the plane and I had to go home. And so this is kind of coming to what I wanted to say about this whole it rains, it pours thing, is that what I've learned to do in these scenarios is just accept that it's raining. And that might sound like unnecessarily like dramatic and poetic, but I've learned to just accept that things are going wrong and not try and get myself too strung up about it. So even yesterday, it wasn't until I got to the event and I couldn't lock the car that I started to get a bit annoyed. But up until then, I just told myself it is what it is. It's one of those days. It's one of those weeks. And I found that that's really been useful to me generally in life. And I used to be someone that would get super stressy about things to the point that I was like shaking. Like before exams, I would have like bad stomach pains. I was always like sweaty and super anxious. And I don't know what it was. Maybe it was that year, that January that I spoke about where things went wrong. But I kind of have realized that one thing that doesn't help a bad scenario is bad energy and beating yourself up. And in a scenario where you're already upset or things are going wrong or you're not too happy, stressing out or shouting or freaking out at yourself or being super pissed off is not going to make things any better for you. It's not going to change the course of the events. It's not going to make you get to the keys quicker. It's not going to help you find them quicker. It's not going to make you at the right address. It's just going to make you feel sick and stressed. And the only thing you can control is the way you react to the situation, the way you process the situation, the way you kind of think, okay, and I'm more of a solutions driven person, and I try and think about, okay, well, this is what I'm experiencing right now. What do I want to get to? And for me, it was just getting my keys and getting to the event. And so I try and just think, okay, keys are lost. What can I do now? I've got to get them back. Okay, they're in the car that's locked. What can I do? Call Zipcar. And just trying to think about a solution to the problem or a way to work around it. And I'm in no way am I saying it's good to like suppress your emotions or ignore how you're feeling. Of course, today I thought about it. I thought that is quite sad and quite annoying, and actually a shame that my Saturday was ruined. I've had a very busy week. I've finished post 9 or 10 most nights this week, and so to not even have a nice Saturday where things just went stress free and I could just chill and then just go and hang out with my friends, and this cake I've made is now kind of going to waste. I can't eat the whole thing. I made enough for like 17 people, but I mean, it's done, right? The weekend is over. I can't really I can't really go back in time. And so I just think that's what I would say to people is when things are not going well, try and be positive. And of course, like, it's not super easy, and obviously there are certain things in life that you can't control. But I've just learned to try and keep my head above water by keeping myself in a positive place and not letting myself get overwhelmed by the situation. Obviously, when I couldn't go to Dubai, I was sad on the way home, but I didn't really like freak myself out, because I asked the guy at the airport, what are my options and what can I honestly do? And he said, you're not going to Dubai today. And like, at that point I was like, there's nothing I can do that's going to make this turn around, so I might as well just accept I'm going home. I went home and I think I got into bed and watched Netflix, and that was it. I kind of just didn't really chat about it too much. Then I think I told my friends the next day, and people at work obviously were like, didn't you say you were on leave or something? But other than that, I've not really had too much to do or to deal with. So I didn't have too much to say about it, because realistically talking about it would probably make me more upset, and it was a done situation. So I'm hoping now that I've had that run of things, my laptop, my phone, the keys, the money I had to pay. I spent £50 on a Zipcar. It was supposed to be like the whole reason I said to my friend get a Zipcar is because it's cheap. It was like £11 for an hour. I said, just get a Zipcar. It's super cheap. Like, it's fine. Nothing will go wrong. Like, it's good. And now I've end up having to pay like £50 plus for just picking up my keys. And someone said to me, actually, when I told them the story earlier, they said, well, why don't you just leave the keys in the car? They're spare set of keys. Like, the likelihood of someone actually finding your house and getting them is zero. Like, you could have just cut a new pair of keys. And no, this is the cat I was telling you about. This is Doji. He loves to just be involved in everything. Come on, Doji. And when I tell you, I was just in such crisis mode that I didn't even really process the fact that I could have just left the keys and then just checked in a day or so and hoped they would, and if they were there, just gone. If the car was close to me, just gone and got them. But it's funny because it's like, what are the chances that the car that I got was there? And this was the funny thing. When I was refreshing the app, I could see all the cars where they were moving and being dropped off every like few minutes. Some were only driven for like 10-15 minutes, some for like half an hour. The only car to move across completely from one side of London to the next was my car. And that's what I mean, is like, I don't think it's a bad luck thing. I think just sometimes it just pours, and it's like, I think it's one of those situations where no matter, I can hypothesize about it and think, okay, well, my laptop getting damaged by my cat, that could be my fault. I could have finished the water. I could have put my laptop elsewhere. And normally I actually have my laptop on me. It was the one time I was just popping out and didn't take my laptop with me. That happened. My phone's slipping out of my hand. Of course I could have had a case, but again, like, as if it happened within 2 days of my laptop breaking. And then the car situation, of course I could have checked for the keys again, and that would have been great, but that's not what happened. That wasn't the scenario I was in. And sometimes things go wrong because they just go wrong, like either by a mistake of your sake or not a mistake of your sake, and you can't really control it. And I find it funny when you're in one of those periods, and I feel like I'm in one now. But then also the thing that I think is useful and quite motivating out of all of this is that there is always an end to that period. There's always, light at the end of the tunnel. And so I'm always kind of just like, it can't be this bad for much longer. And so I'm hoping going forward into the next week that I have a much better week and things turn out better. But I wanted to, again, it seems like I'm doing a series of like sad episodes. Last week was It Sucks Being an Adult, and this week is When It Rains It Pours. But I just thought it'd be an interesting story to tell, and it's a quick one to kind of get out and just share with you guys before I forget. But I want to say, I guess, as well, to anyone listening who feels like they're going through one of those weeks or one of those months or one of those years where everything goes wrong, when you look at it like that, it can feel that way, but actually, I'm sure in between all these things, there'll be things that went well for you. And, like, aside from what happened yesterday, and the week I've had, I've also been lucky enough to buy a flat in the last month or so, or I've also been able to redo my kitchen. The kitchen looks great, and I actually really like it, and that's been good for me. And I've also released a podcast last week, and I've had a lot of people listen. I'm actually impressed that I've listened to the first week, and people have had good feedback, and people that I don't even know that well, or I haven't spoken to a lot, have been like, oh, I listened to that podcast, I listened to your podcast, and I thought it was cool, I thought it was relatable and easy to listen to. And that is such a great compliment, because I'm always super nervous and super shy about the content I put out and the quality of it and whether it's worth putting out. And so when people actually take their time out of the day, and we're all super busy, I'm recording this at like 8 p.m. on a Sunday, because it's the only time I've had this week to do it, with the setup for the lights and the recording as well. But when people take time out of their day to listen to that, like, that's very validating and also very encouraging. And so I've actually overall had a good week and a good month. But when you look at it, if you focus on the bad things, it can be very easy to kind of get in a state where you feel like you're just living in this hellish cycle of negativity. And of course, sometimes that is what happens, and horrible things happen to people in life, and sometimes things just go, completely wrong. But I don't think it's ever going to be so bad that you can't find one good thing that's happened to you in that day, or one good thing that's worth focusing on, or one thing that makes you happy or feel better. So yeah, that was my story of the week, and that's the message for this episode. Is it might rain, and they say, when it rains it pours, and if it pours, sometimes accept that it's raining and just keep smiling and push through the rain. And I'm still here, I'm not dead, and something else is going to happen in a week or two, or hopefully in a month or 2 or 3 months. But that's kind of just life. It's the good and the bad, and you've got to take both. So hopefully you guys all have a better week than I've had. Hopefully you've had a better week than I had, and hopefully you also have better weeks than I've had. But that is the body of today's episode. So this week on Timi's Takes, and I really didn't want to talk about this because I really just hate giving this person airtime, but Kanye West, I'm like, should I really talk about this? Okay, let's do it. Kanye West is clearly going through some kind of crisis or whatever again, and like prefacing this with the fact that Kanye has revealed that he was diagnosed with bipolar and has mental health issues that he's working through. And I'm not in any way discounting that as someone who has my own mental health conditions that I have to deal with on a daily basis. But one thing I want to say about Kanye is that he's very smart. He's a very smart guy, and I do think he's very good at controversy and reaction and shock and stirring the media and his viewers and listeners and people who consume his content. And we have to sometimes, I think, learn to separate the mental illness from the personality and the ego and the bravado. And Kanye knows exactly what he was doing when he went and did what he did this week. And if you don't know, Kanye West went to a fashion show with another woman who I don't know the name of, actually. Well, I've heard her name, but I didn't really know her, who is also a self-hating black woman. And I say that because anyone that behaves like this has those issues. Kanye West, he wore a shirt that said "White Lives Matter" to a fashion show. I'm just finding the name of the woman that he wore it with, because apparently she also has a huge thing for, she's always been a woman that kind of speaks out against black people and against kind of just people who are pro-black. She's one of those women that can kind of be seen as someone that just doesn't really like the fact that she's black, and so does anything she can to stick out and stand out against her own race. So it's Candace Owens. Sorry, I was kind of looking and speaking, but it's Candace Owens who did that. And there are a lot of things I just want to say about this. No one is saying white people are important, right? That's not what's happening. But if we look at the history of the world and the Western world and slavery and colonization, white people have perpetrated the largest amount of oppression to minority people in the world generally. And so when people say, Black Lives Matter, it's not to say that white people aren't important. It's to raise awareness and to change the narrative around Black lives, because generally we've been treated like they do not matter. And so I think anyone that wants to argue with that or say I don't really feel that's fair and obviously we should encourage inclusion, shut up. Just stay in your lane, mind your own business. Okay, this isn't the time to kind of do happy politics, right? Sometimes there are messages that need to be said that might not be pleasing to you. But if you also feel targeted by that statement or feel oppressed or like someone's trying to get at you, you're probably a racist or you have deep-seated issues you need to work through. But the Black Lives Matter movement was not a movement to oppress people. It was a movement to make people realize and care for Black lives, because that has not been the case. And when we look at, the treatment of the police towards police's treatment of Black people in America, and even, in the UK, there's been a lot of like negative racial experiences. And whilst we might not have guns, there are lots of things that I think could be changed in the UK. Talking about the UK, if we take the case of, Chris Cabba, who was shot by the police, he was unarmed in a car, just driving, and in the initial narrative release was that he was followed by police with their sirens on, and he was aware of and there was a chase. It wasn't a chase. They didn't have alarms on. They didn't have their lights on. He was tailed, without warning. He wasn't aware of what was going on. The police followed him without letting him know what was going on, and then they pulled up and then they shot him. Now, that's another topic, and again, rest in peace, and I hope that his family get the justice they deserve, which I don't expect with this criminal justice system in the UK, but I hope they get the justice they deserve. But back to Kanye. The movement is such a powerful movement, and it came off of the back of the killing of so many innocent Black people, and we saw such a big genesis and a huge movement in COVID to push for people to be seen as equal. And as Black people, I feel we have to fight sometimes to be seen as equal by our peers and in the world and in society and by the leaders of the world. And so for Kanye to, as a Black man who I also respected so much, he did College Dropout and Yeezy and Love Pablo, and also just like to see a Black man really, like, I watched a documentary Yeezus before this all happened, and I really did respect him and have a lot of time for him, and I think he was dedicated to music, and he's obviously talented, as a musician. To come from, nothing, and his work he did to get to where he got to, and his grind and determination to fight through, the media's treatment of him and the dulling of his confidence and wanting him to be seen as a negative person because he was confident, because the media doesn't like confident Black men, and to get through that and to be at the stage of his career where he started this like successful fashion brand as a Black man who said they wouldn't let him have this brand because he was Black and the fashion industry didn't want to see him in there, to then turn around and then put the joke on people of color and to use his voice and his platform to ridicule himself or ridicule a movement that means so much to so many people and means so much to the people whose kids have been shot and brothers and aunties and uncles have been killed, or her families have experienced negativity and are trying to get reparations due to the slave trade, or trying to adjust and adapt to the life they live in America, or even here, people who have been racially abused or bullied or physically abused or targeted or lost a job at work or been oppressed or experienced microaggressions, and to take his power and his stance and his ability and his voice and to make a joke about something like that. I just think there comes a point where you have to kind of say to yourself, I'm not gonna make excuses anymore. Kanye is a bad person for doing this. I think he's made a choice that is very conscious. He could have said so many things, right? There's so many things going on in the world right now that need attention and need a platform. And if he didn't want to be in support of Black people, he could have just not said anything. He could have just not worn the shirt. And before he's saying slavery is a choice and like all these things, and it seems like he wants to claim that he's, pushing free speech and he's supporting Donald Trump and he wants to like be different. But what's clear to me is that there's a lot of self-hate in there and there's a lot of loathing. And I think when someone once or twice or whatever, when someone, seems to take any opportunity they have to kind of question or separate themselves or distance themselves from their race, it's sometimes, and I understand it can be hard to acknowledge or recognize, there's a lot of self-hate in there. And it's sad to see. But at the same time, Kanye's a smart man. He runs a business. He runs a company. He's released multiple albums and navigated the music industry, and he tours and he knows what to say when and how to say what he needs to say, and knows how to navigate those rooms. And he's intelligent enough to know how to behave in a certain way. And he's managed to get through life. So he's a functional adult, and I think he knew this would get a reaction. I even hate that I'm talking about this, but I wanted to address it because I feel like as a Black person, it is important to me to talk about these things. When it's rare that we have Black figures in the public eye just not wanting to lead for their people. And so I think it's a shame and interesting that it's Kanye, and you see like kind of Jay-Z and that kind of group would distance themselves from him. But I have no time for people that make a joke out of something that is really at its core about people's lives and people staying alive and people's existence and people's mental health, right? I think we say Kanye West has this and that, but actually people struggle with their race and the way they're treated, and that can affect their mental health, and then to see someone make a joke out of that, I just think is insensitive. And I don't know who in his team allowed that, and maybe he, vetoed them, and then there's Candace Owens supporting him and laughing, and I just think it was just so distasteful and so unfair and so wrong. And I'm kind of gonna have to think about how I really engage with Kanye, because if I'm not gonna support or encourage or like promote someone that actually is not for something that is so important to me as a person, and that's the equality and furthering of the black experience and the black race, and us being seen as equals and being treated as equals and having the opportunities we all deserve to have. So I wanted to just talk about that, and it's kind of got me quite annoyed speaking about it now. It's kind of got me riled up because I just think it wasn't necessary. It didn't need to happen. I'm like, as I searched it up now, he's out there saying, he thought it was funny and he thought it was a joke, and it's like, just come out and apologize. You tried to do something that you knew was wrong for attention, for reaction. Don't try and say, I just thought it was funny. Because a second ago you're crying that your wife wanted to abort your daughter, and that's not right and that's not fair, and you can take that seriously. But then when you want to then say that race is a joke, and you want to make a joke out of that and make light of it, when you know that that's also just as serious. You were complaining that George Bush was a racist before and didn't like black people, and then suddenly down the line it's a joke. The inconsistency is just it's irritating. And I think that we see this a lot, and I see it from my point of view. How I understand it is that it can be hard if you grow up in a society that doesn't like you and doesn't want to give you space, to then have to become a big person, become a celebrity or a star in that space, and have to feel like the lens is always on you, and to actually have grown up to harbor self-hate. And I think even me as a kid at school, sometimes I grew up in a very white area, and there's a lot of racism, and people would comment on my nose and my hair, and like, you're darker than everyone else, and like, would bully me. And I went through a lot of racial experiences as a kid, and I went through like a very bad racial scandal when I was at uni. And sometimes you think it might just be easy to just be white, and you might not like the fact that you're black, because obviously you can think, well, all these negative things that are happening to me and all these things that are drawing attention to me are happening because of the color of my skin. So if I wasn't this color, then maybe things would be easier. And I get that. And so sometimes people kind of internalize this kind of self-hate towards themselves. So they hate the way that they are is causing them to experience these negative things. But that again is something that I had to work through. And I think as an adult and as a father and as a public figure, Kanye has a responsibility to work through that and understand where it comes from, and not, if you don't have anything good to say, then just don't say anything. But don't come out and like step on your own people who have bought your albums and have, defended you countless times and gone to your tours and supported your overpriced clothing brand because you're black, and they look up to you, and you came from nothing, and you made this music that was for black people and was, soul and R&B and gospel at times. And, he's important to so many people, and so many kids are looking up to him now and just seeing like Kanye thinks that being black or Black Lives Matter is a joke. And it's just sad, and it's a shame. And so I think I'll probably end there, because I could rant about this for ages, but it's more of a commentary on Kanye's state of Kanye's state of interpersonal love with himself, and Kanye's state of understanding of his existence and who he is, and Kanye's own personal struggle. But at the same time, I also think that there are people that go through similar things that don't go out and then like outwardly spew negativity towards their own people, and that's why I think it's just not good enough. So yeah, sorry Kanye, sort it out. Okay, well, thanks for listening to episode 2. Two very different halves to that. You had me just going through a bad week, and then me also then just going on this like very political conversation about Kanye. But I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope the video is recorded probably this time. I've done a different setup. I have the memory card empty. I've got a large memory card. So if you're watching this on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, comment saying it worked. Subscribe, and if you're listening, again, thank you for listening. If you're on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts even, please do leave a review. Some people already have given it 5 stars. Thank you so much. That was actually very, very sweet. I saw it today. So thank you for everyone that gave it a rating, gave it 5 stars, and all left a comment. It's cute. I appreciate it. Keep doing it. And if you're watching on Spotify, thank you for watching on Spotify. Wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, if you're listening on Spotify, wherever you're downloading this or digesting this, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to my voice for 40 or so minutes, and thank you for being a part of Black Eye. I hope we can continue to evolve. I can't speak properly at the end. I hope we can. Oh my god, it's getting bad. I need to have some water. I've got clay mouth. I hope we can continue to evolve and grow together, and I'm excited to continue to make episodes. And I have a few episodes I had lined up, like the one I had planned for today that I swapped out, but some exciting topics and some guests as well, and some kind of debates to come up as well. So I look forward to that. So thank you for everyone that's listened. And if you have ideas or things you'd like to hear me talk about, or suggestions or feedback, I'm super open to that. I'm very receptive to it because it's very early days for me, and so I'm very kind of open to hear those things. So please do share with me anything you think that would be useful. If you have tips or tricks or things you'd like to see or things you think I could change, I'm very receptive to that. So please do let me know. And other than that, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys on next week's episode. Goodbye.